Well, as I described, to you, that stories are meant to be shared to help us get in touch with things that we suppress, such as emotion, such as happiness, such as joy. And in doing so, we grow very quickly. And so I was just thinking, what story to tell? I'm sure that all of us, we have this little secret as storytellers. For people on the screen that are not storytellers, I've yet to meet a storyteller. When I ask them, so what story are you going to tell? They always say, I don't know. Because and some people think that I'm not telling the whole truth when I say, really, stories are the boss. Stories, they jump up when they're needed. And so I wanted to honor a very precious man. And your story has inspired me to tell this story, Jonathan, is that this elderly couple who were barren, they couldn't have children, and they had the moon boy. But that's not the story. I want to tell the story of the teller, because there are many different stories. So I would say there's personal stories, there's classics, how the world came to be. There's creation stories. There's regional stories, different from different regions, which several people have made note of. And I just think it's so wonderful that, just by saying the name, we have the story of that place, how that came to be, how was that rock face, splattered with that blood of that giant, that these are, our children need to look at these land features, these land masses, and say, wow, yeah, that happened. So I guess what I'd like to also say is that a couple of people have talked about Beaver, and that's my name. Ts'e, Itzoh means a beaver woman. And I know that once when I was traveling with an archaeologist, and perhaps you might even know her, her name is Sheila Greer. And I think she worked at the University of Alberta for a couple of years, Alex, and you might know her. So her and my grandfather, who was at the time when we went up for this, we were on the land, and he was telling us about the Black Stone and the migration of caribou and where they stayed and where they set up all these huge caribou corrals, which took probably well over 2 or 3 years to make, as it's up in the barren land and there are no spruce trees there. So they would have to haul these spruce trees by dog team in the winter. But I want to tell the story, and I'm not going to tell the whole story because it's the story of his centenary year. He lived to be 102. And his mind was very acute right till the day he died. He could remember when things were happening. And so in the year 2000 was the year that he turned 100. And the University of British Columbia invited people who had stories of centenarians to send in their application to be asked to tell stories at UBC, at the University of British Columbia, about people who were 100 years old. So that's the year that Grandpa was turning 100. And prior to that, it was 1998, and I was visiting him in Dawson City. He usually lived in Dawson during the winter, and he moved up river to a place called Moosehead. So it's a traditional village. And there was all this chatter going on in the city of Dawson about the centenary. And he asked me, what is that? How come everybody talk about the centenary? What's that? I said, oh, it's been 100 years since the gold rush. He laughed. He said, I'm going to make it. And at that time, of course, he was 98. And still, he was just an amazing guy. He had a difficult time to hear. His hearing was impaired, as well as his sight was somewhat impaired, but he wore very thick, what we would refer to in the village as pop bottle glasses, very thick glass, but he could see, and he could see well enough to make snowshoes. So that's, he had fairly good eyesight. And sometimes he would complain about his hearing aid. He would take it off, and he would always tell me, yeah, when you're a hunter, he said, pretty soon you wear your ears out. So yeah, he told me about the time when he was a young man and they had just brought guns into the country, muzzle loaders. And he said, we went from bows, bow and arrow and clubs and caribou corrals to muzzle loaders. And we were much more able to gather food in those days. He said, we got a grocery store. You come twice a year, you miss it, you're going to be pretty hungry. And he was referring to the caribou herds that the porcupine caribou herd that, they would summer in Alaska and come back into the Yukon and winter in Alaska. He said, you miss it, you're going to be pretty hungry. So he always used to say that. So when he was married, he told me this story about how that came to be. He was 20 years old and grandma was 16. And he was very, confident hunter at 20 years old. He'd been hunting probably since he was 12. He said, maybe 12 years old, maybe 14, I don't remember. He said, we don't have calendars in those days. And he would laugh. We don't have watch. We don't have all that. What are we going to need that for? He said, it's just extra weight to carry around, or, extra paraphernalia that you don't really need when you're living on the land. When I'm a young kid, he said, I have a dream. I keep dreaming and I try to figure it out. What's that dream? He said, in my dream, I see little woman, small girl. She's a woman though, but she's very small, and she got small voice, very little tiny voice. I see her in my dream. And I'm kind of shy too. He said, I don't want to tell my mom and dad about that dream. And he said, pretty soon my mom and dad, they said, get the dogs ready, get everything ready. I'm going to pack up. We're going to go visit our friends upriver. We're going to visit our friends. And he said, my parents had friends for all their lives. They kind of grew up together. And he said, the first couple, they got married, and they said to each other as couples, when they got together, they said, if we have children, if we have a boy and a girl, then those two, they're going to get married. And so unbeknownst to him, they had already made this arrangement, and he did what a caring son would do. He got the dogs all ready. His mother had her own team, but he got everything ready for her and himself with his team and his father, because they just don't go visit. You're hunting along the way, and you have to carry your gear and everything to stay. So he said, we travel by moonlight in the wintertime. He said, just go on a river, just go. He said, northern lights just come down low too. He said, it's very beautiful to travel. And we got to that camp, we're pretty tired, especially my dad. He's pretty tired. He wants to sleep right away. So I told him, that's okay, Dad. I'm going to take care of everything, the dogs, and bring everything in. You and Mom, you go sleep. And so he said that he started undoing all the dogs and feeding them and giving them water and everything before he came in. And he said, when he came in there, his mom and dad were still awake. Of course, they're visiting their old friends, and their old friends had a daughter. Well, the daughter was already sleeping. And so Grandpa said, so I got my bedroll and I slept there the night. And because I know that they got daughter, but I didn't see her, he said. I never see her yet. And when I got up in the morning, I can't believe it too. He said, I got shy, just the same. I got shy, he said, because I hear that little voice. I hear small voice. She's out there. She's cooking something in that cabin. She lived there with her parents and her grandma there too, he said. And I'm shy. I just get up really quick and I go outside. And then I come back in. How's she going to know what I dream anyway? He said. So we stayed there. He said, I don't know, maybe one a week, maybe more, he said. And pretty soon my dad said, well, we're going to head out. So I went out to get my mother's dogs and everything ready. And I started to get my own team ready. And my dad said, where are you going? And he said, what do you mean? And so I told my dad, well, I'm going with you. He said, no, don't you know you're married now? He said, I was just so surprised. He said, I don't even know I got married. He said, that girl there, that's Annie, that's your wife now. You got to stay with her. You can't come home. Well, he said, it took me a while to get used to that. He said, I don't know her and she don't know me too. And she's shy and I can hardly hear her voice too. She got quiet voice, but pretty soon her grandma, she's the one, she really encouraged us to, go for a day, go out and set snares and go ice fishing and things like that, to get to know each other. And so that's what we did. And pretty soon, I guess that's when we become a married couple, really. He said, she's younger than me. She's just 16, maybe 17. I don't know. We don't have calendar them times. It's in the church. They write it down in the church, but we don't know. And pretty soon she get in a family way. He said, oh, I'm so proud. I'm going to be dad. Her too. She's look a little bit nervous about that, but her grandma is there, and her grandma is a very good midwife. She just knows how to bring the babies out really quick. She did that for many years in another camp where she was raised up. So we know we're in good hands. Here I was out on the land and I come home and I hear baby cry. Me too, he said, I cry. Baby boy. We call our boy Peter. You know why? I said, no, Grandpa, I don't know why. Why you call him Peter? Because that Peter, he's good fisherman. That's why. You know, in the Bible? It's the same with my own grandma. That was kind of their hero in the Bible, was the good fisherman. So we give him that good name, Peter. So he's going to be good fisherman when he's grow big. We make swing for babies. It's like a hammock. They just put the rope there with babiche, they make rope out of that, and then you put a blanket inside and you put the baby there. And the baby is just, they hang it in the cabin. So they usually hang it right near where the parents are sleeping. So in the middle of the night, the baby cries, and either the dad or the mother brings the baby, and so the mother can feed the baby. Everything is just so close proximity, and not many Indigenous people believe in this thing that, when the baby cries, you let them cry, or, you should feed them on a regular basis. So anyways, he said, here, we bring that baby down, and your grandma, she feed that. He's getting fat too. He's growing really fast. Our little Peter, he said. So he told me, your grandma, she's so young. She don't know some things, Her grandma's trying to teach her mom too. And one thing she's when she's tired, she go to sleep right away. And here she had that baby in bed with her. Between us, I go way over other side of bedroll because, she's feeding that baby, and I want to give him room. And here he said, Grandma, she went to sleep. And pretty soon I woke up and your grandma's just screaming. She rolled on top of our little baby boy, and he died. Oh, he called me Ts'e. Ts'e, he said, your grandma go a little bit crazy. That's her grandma, help her. And we had a little funeral there for my little baby. I can't take it. Her too. They said we're married for 75 years. That's when he was telling me the story, that when I was going to take him down to the community hall in Dawson to celebrate their 75th anniversary of their marriage. He said, really, Ts'e, it's only 73. That's when he told me this story. He said, I hook up my dogs. I head out. When I'm on the river, he said, I cry for my little Peter. He's not going to be in my toboggan. He's not going to learn how to run dogs. I went long way. I know where my uncle stays. Maybe 6 hours. I went to his camp. I told him what happened. He feels sorry for me. He don't tell me, go back to your camp. Maybe I'm there for about 6 months. Winter over, springtime, pretty soon summer come. And my uncle told me, how come you stick around here? You're a married man, You better go back to your wife. So just about 2 years now. That's 2 seasons I've been with him. But in that second summer, that's when he told me, you better go back. So I went back, and your grandma had healed up. Her grandma's the one that helped her through that period. Not too long. We got blessing. We got another baby boy. We named him Peter too. lots of things happen 100 years, you know. So I asked him, Grandpa, how is it that you live 100 years? And he's never been sick. He said, I've never been sick in my life. He said, the reason I live to be 100 is because I help lots of people. That's why. Are you writing me a little note? So we went to the big party over there at the community center. I took him and Grandma there with my little grandson, who was about 4. And Grandpa, before we left the house, he played him a song. I got no drum, my little grandchild, he said, because I give my drum away. I give it to a young boy so he could play it. So he went and he took a piece of kindling out of the wood box, and there's a wooden table there. And he used that table for his drum. And he sang a beautiful song for this great, great grandchild, his great, great grandson. He said, you know, grandchild, he said, this song I'm singing for you, to you, that you too will live for 100 years, he said. So he played this song for us, and we went to the party afterwards. And both him and Grandma were in wheelchairs. There's a picture of them there, you know, he couldn't walk too well. And he said, yeah, people think this old man is sleeping and can't think right, can't remember. Huh. He said, in my dream, I'm running after caribou and I have my dog team. He said, that's all right that they think we're married for 75 years. I know. That was a sweet moment with my grandpa. Nobody else had to know. These are struggles that he went through, and him and Grandma went on to have 12 more children, all healthy, all good people, strong like him. And he died in 2002 when he was 102 years old. First day of spring. Very loving man. So that's the story I want to leave you with. It's a story of love, intergenerational, passing down a story of grief, of life, how to live your life like a story. And each day is so worth honoring and just being so grateful for. Every moment is something to be grateful for. So Mussi, I've enjoyed the day with all of you. And I'm happy I brought my grandpa here to be with you as well.